Well, Mr. Waters, welcome to Honor Cafe Hall of Heroes. How you doing today, sir?
Doing fine. I don't have any pains. Just doing all right
Well,
now.
how old are you, sir?
I'm 102 years old yesterday.
That's right.
Or the 12th.
The 12th. It was a great celebration, wasn't it?
Oh, it was.
I was up here at Worthington Manor. Boy, that's a nice place. And
yeah, it is.
The whole town showed up. And Conroe, Texas declared that the 12th is now your day. It's your day. For here, as long as Conroe's around, we'll honor you on the 12th.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's amazing. And you have an amazing story. And I'm so thankful that we could have this conversation. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Alabama, east part of Alabama.
What happened to your Alabama accent?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Not too many years ago, well, it's during World War II, there's so many people asked me what part of Alabama I was born in. Regardless where I was, they'd ask me that.
So just knew it.
I don't know what happened. If I don't have the accent, nobody says anything about it now.
Now I'm starting to hear it. See, you thought about it, and I'm starting to hear that accent a little bit. So when did you enter service?
It was in July the 13th, I believe, of 19. Let's see. I'll have to think a bit on
I think it was 42, and
I think, yeah,
it was 42.
I believe it.
I read your book. You have this incredible book, and I read it, and No Thought for Tomorrow. That's what it's titled, and I got all the facts straight. So I'll help you along a little bit if you need it. But for 102, I can't believe how sharp you are. So you enter service. And you celebrate your birthday.
Right, in a big way.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So when did you get married?
Got married December the 13th, 1941.
And so
I think that's right.
So what did your wife think about you, joining it was the Army Air Corps back then, correct?
No, well, let's see. That's right.
Yeah.
It was Army Air Force and or Army Air Corps. I don't know which. But when I got in the Army, or not in the Army, but in the Army Air Force at that time, it was such chaos. I didn't say it. I wasn't in boot camp for about a week. It's just enough time for running tests on you. And I didn't know what test was for, but the first thing I knew, they had me in a discussion about what I wanted to do. And that was a surprise to me that they'd be asking that. They're supposed to tell me what to do, I thought. But I listened, and they said, well, you can, we're just short everywhere. And I says, you passed the test that whatever you want to do is what we can talk about. And, well, I hadn't thought about asking me what I wanted to do. Well, you can work on instruments if you want to. Well, the first thing I was thinking about is staying out of harm's way. I didn't think about, this is an adventure.
Yeah.
It's the only time that I'll ever have to really go into things and see what it's like. But of course, I never did think about the ball turret of a B-17. But we finally decided on, maybe you can just go into training for working on planes. So I wound up in Boston, Massachusetts. There's a troop train going to Boston with a bunch of people on it. And I met a guy. I had my southern accent. And the guy that I got a berth with on the train is a passenger with sleeping quarters. It's just back then, they had lots of trains that had accommodations for, I can't think what they're called right now, but there'd be 3 men to the berth, 1 upstairs in the car, and 2 could sleep downstairs in that particular car, just civilian setup. Wound up in Boston, Massachusetts. And I found out that I'd been assigned to the civilian aircraft school, work on BT-13 basic training planes. And it was a college that we had most of our classes in. We was stationed in the old post office building there in Boston. And I didn't realize that this was almost unbelievable for civilians, just turned into the service, that have such nice quarters. So the next step from there was going up to Kansas to work on planes. So I saw that one what I wanted to do. I always thought, not always, but it did cross my mind, this thing is not going to ever happen in my lifetime, this war. I want to be where there's some excitement. But I didn't realize that it could get pretty rough,
Yeah.
And but I was thinking just the outstanding thing to go into a section that'll never happen in my lifetime again. So. Where I went from one place to another, this thing is hard to explain. To remember enough, it's tied in.
That's fine.
Yeah.
When did you head over to Europe?
I was waiting to working on the line. While we was waiting, I thought I wanted this anyway. And one day they called out. It was just that was when I was in Kansas. I went from Perrin up to Kansas. This is all during that time, kind of waiting to go on the line to work on airplanes. Till one day, that's when I was in Perrin Field up there above Dallas. They wanted to know if somebody wanted to go to a B-17 school and learn to work on specific planes. Well, I thought I don't want to work on planes. I want to ride. And so I stepped out of line, and when we was getting ready to go somewhere else, get started on our working on BT 13s. Whoever's in charge in line says, anybody wants to go to gunner school, step forward. I stepped forward, and I wound up from up there, and I'd moved to Kansas then. So I didn't know where I was going from there, but I was going to go in gunner school. And it turned out I went to Las Vegas, Nevada. They had a school there that you learn how to fly, or and to be on a crew that flew. You wasn't a pilot or co-pilot, but you was a gunner on one of those fighter planes. And we went through training there at Las Vegas. In the meantime, my wife went back home to Alabama, and I stayed in Las Vegas long enough to learn how to air-to-air combat. And that was the first time I ever got off the ground.
Wow.
Was, there in Las Vegas, the airfield that's there in Las Vegas. We got on AT-6, advanced trainer.
How long was that school?
That school was, I guess about 2 months, something like that. We flew an AT-6, a 2-engine plane, and a 2-seater plane, one engine naturally, and they wanted us to fly our first getting off the ground there in Las Vegas, so we know how to handle a 30 caliber machine gun, air-to-air combat, and pulling that flag behind it. And the first time we just, me and the pilot, that's the first time I ever got off the ground. I felt like this thing, it can't get off the ground. I was just that ignorant about all that stuff. And when we started moving down the runway, I got my doubts about getting off the ground, just not knowing what it was about. Boy, I felt that power under you, when it's ready to take off. And so the first time you flew, you're supposed to get acquainted with a 30 caliber machine gun, how it swings around, got a belt around you, so you can stay in the plane. It'd throw you out, if you didn't have that belt around you. And you got one plane that's pulling a target. Got that target well behind the plane that's pulling it, and you've got your 30 caliber machine gun with bullets that's colored. The projectile is colored so that that target that's being pulled is got different colored. Each gun is up there is the bullets are colored. Got paint that's get off on the target. You could tell there'd be more than one shooting at that target, you know. But you can tell whose bullet hit it because of the color bullets. You count the colors, you know.
Wow.
See how many you got, and that first mission though, I just didn't shoot the gun, just to get used to it. And I thought, man, I don't like this. But I don't know what was happening. Something. We was in a dive, and I didn't know it, but the pilot did. He liked to know to pull it out. He told me when we got on the ground, you know.
Really?
Yeah. And of course, it was just something that I didn't like. I knew that, but I don't know why I didn't look at the ground. See, you know, it was just going round and round.
Yeah.
But he pulled it out for me naturally.
Yeah.
We left the United States by boat. There's a lot of people flying the plane. They'll be using, you know.
Yeah.
Got over there, but I was just a replacement crew. So we went by boat from the East Coast to Casablanca, Florida, or Africa.
Wow.
And that took it took a long time to get there in that formation. You know, it's fairly slow for everybody to keep up. They had balloons flying over, all those ships out there together, and had escort planes to join us at times, you know, going. And when we got to North Africa, that was just like a storybook. I thought of my fifth grade geography. What those people, what was first thing that was fascinating me, seeing a donkey in a camel pulling two-horse wagon. And
it must have been a relief to get off that troop transport ship.
Oh, it was. But that wasn't the worst trip I ever had on a ship. Was going from Heidekrug was the name of the town over in Europe. Going down the coast there in that old ore hauling ship. When I got up there, you know, and looked down the hole, that was when I was prisoner of war. I didn't think there's room in there for another person. Seeing all those faces looking up, you know.
Yeah.
And I felt the gun with a bayonet on the barrel, prodding me along to go down that hole, that ship.
When I was reading your biography, you talked about when you were headed to Casablanca, they had the troops stacked up so high with chains between the bunks, and it was like, I think you said 7 high.
Yeah.
One of the chains would break and just come down on everybody.
Yeah.
And you're 6 foot tall, so I can't imagine you crammed in that troop transport ship. But
yeah.
So you're in Casablanca.
Uh-huh.
And you're seeing these donkeys and camels. How long did you stay in Casablanca?
I stayed there about a week, I guess, before we got on that troop train going across North Africa.
Tell us about that, because I heard it went so slow you could jump off and run ahead of it.
Yeah, we're going up that Atlas Mountains. I think that's Atlas Mountain. It's down there. Yeah, you could jump off and take a crap.
Because everybody had dysentery.
And then run, maybe have your pants in your hand.
And you can catch the train again.
Catch that train going up the mountain, you know. and maybe sometimes I may mention that in the book. That thing would be going along, getting slower and slower and slower. Finally, it stop. It just sitting there. You'd hear the wheels turn, you know, and they'd back down the mountain, get another engine, and hook onto it, and then go again. And
So your first mission, you flew. You had to get in that ball turret. How hard was that? Getting down in that ball turret.
it wasn't hard. It just it was just time consuming, I guess you could say.
But your knees were up by your ears. You said in your book, and you could only hold the control with one arm or one hand.
One hand. Yeah. If I just as good as I could with both hands, and your aiming mechanism was right here in front of you, and you got it set on 109. Seemed like was the wingspan most of those planes, as I remembered, and you set it on 109.
Messerschmitt 109. That was the plane you were shooting at, probably.
Yeah. And
how did you aim it? How were the aiming sights?
You had two sights here like this, a vertical, and you had one that connects those two, and it's always set up that way. And when you raise your foot a little bit, why that brings your target in closer to you, you know.
Yeah.
That means it's the closest you hold your foot, bring your foot up, the closer these things gets together, the best I remember, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember
exactly. You talked about in the book, you said it was lit. There was light on the.
Yeah. It's just a narrow light each side, and that narrow light goes across here. While I'm thinking about it, we went out there to see the B-17. I was always around them, you know, at the airport. And people want to ask me questions, you know. And one of my boys happened to be with me that day and says, what was the sight like in that plane? And I said, well, let's get in one of the planes and see what it looks like. I never will forget that. They didn't have the sight set up right. They had the sight like this. I said, the only way you can aim with that is if planes coming in, well, it wouldn't fly like this, you know, one wing down, the other up.
What did it feel like being in that ball turret and you're under the plane just seeing everything? I mean,
yeah, everything under that plane. You could see the bottom of the props, you know, and up to about the hub. And
do you remember what mission it was that you fired your first shots at an enemy plane? I know you talked in the book about the first mission was a milk run. It was enemy fighters, and the second mission wasn't so good. And and then it progressively got worse.
Yeah. I don't remember the details about the others that I can think of now.
Do you ever remember hitting or shooting down a plane?
No. I remember aiming at a plane and shooting at it, but it's going down. But that's all, because there's so many guns on it, you know.
How fast could that swivel, the ball turret?
Oh, it's faster than you can see anything. You know, it moves on.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to stop it to see anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you move it faster than you can tell it. It's fast. You got to get it stopped where you can see. It'd be about like riding a train and trees up as far as close to the train as you can get. You know.
Yeah.
And
so you were flying all daytime bombing missions at that time.
Yeah.
And so you could see down where the bombs were hitting.
Yeah. See, if it's hitting the edge of the water a lot of times, and pilot might be saying he had a direct hit, and I'd show them, you know, where it's hit. They'd have pictures, actual pictures, you know, people took. It was on the plane. I never did have a camera with me, but.
So you flew 20 missions and were unscathed, and then when was it where you were shot down?
What were the circumstances? I saw we was going down. There wasn't no question about that, because I've been in a 2-horse wagon when the horses be running, yeah. And it's rough, you know. Yeah. And that's how rough it was. Just rough as it of a cob.
How'd you get out of that thing fast enough? Because it wasn't hard getting out of the turret.
No, not when it's set. And you ordinarily turn your guns to the rear, lined up just right for the guns to be pointing to the rear. So if you hit the ground and the guns happen to get loose, you know, and fall straight down, they'll bounce, I imagine. That's the way it'd be, you know. But it wouldn't break the barrel or anything. It'd be hinged so that the guns would be hitting the ground. And if you hit it the other way, I saw what it looked like when somebody had the guns turned to the front. It'll break both barrels.
So you couldn't get your chute in there with you because you were so tall. I mean, the average size.
Nobody could. I
could.
Can't visualize anybody being able to get in there with a chute on. But I'm sure that there's some skinny, small men that could do it, you know.
The average size was 5 foot.
5'8".
5'8". That was, and you were 6 foot.
Yeah.
How'd you end up in the turret? You were 6 foot.
Well, it's, you know, a 22-year-old guy's pretty limber.
So
and I was skinny.
And your captain, Cisco, he made the decision to put you in there.
Yeah. Well, I can see how that makes Cisco feel, you know.
Yeah.
And he was the only child that family had. I found out later through Mac McCaffrey, you know, that was from New York also. Of course, McCaffrey was from the Bronx. And Cisco's parents were from upstate New York somewhere. I've forgotten that.
Did Cisco go down with the plane?
Yeah, he went down with the plane. But he wasn't in the pilot's seat. And the co-pilot said, I wonder what happened to that little fart. He was a small man. And but he is in line to jump with us, he said. But he wasn't there. He was with the plane when it hit the ground. But
how many people did you lose in the plane crash?
I mean, what?
How many people didn't get out of the plane?
Well, the tail gunner was killed, and the radio operator, and the one-waist gunner, and the tail gunner.
So you said there was three of you fighting over a position not to be in the ball turret, and everybody wanted the side doors and the waist gunner, and Cisco ended up putting you in the ball turret.
The best place you could be.
Yeah, and then you ended up surviving. It was a good thing, you weren't in that waist gunner position. So you jumped out. What door did you go out?
I went out tail, the right side of the plane. That was the door, back there, and just front of the controls. But
so when you went out the plane, I imagine it wasn't a very long trip down.
It was longer than you might think, because everything's so quiet, and it takes quite a while to hit the ground.
And you were probably worried about getting shot while you were going down.
No, that's another thing. I never did feel like I was going to get shot, because the pilot of the plane that shot me down circled me 3 times. And the first time was quite a ways from me. Well, of course, he had to judge too how fast he goes down, staying the same speed of me, going down. I hadn't thought about that before, but he had to. Of course, I guess somebody had been shot down like he had so many times. He knew how much room to give people as you go down.
When you hit the ground, it was winter.
Yeah.
And you landed near a small German town, and there was a whole crowd out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you said in your book there was no getting away.
No, there wasn't any way of getting away that I could see. Of course, if I'd have made an attempt to get away, I don't know, I might have got shot.
Yeah. They took you in the German town, and the kind of paraded you through, you said, into a place where they were serving beer.
Yeah. And they set out a glass for me, and I reached to get it, and they grabbed it. They weren't supposed to give me a glass of beer.
So the Germans picked you up.
Mm-hmm.
The German troops picked you up. Where was the first prison camp that they took you to?
It was Frankfurt, I think, because it's just trucks trucking me, from where that little town was. And I don't remember. They had us stopping in towns too, demonstrating to the people look what we've got.
Oh man! So you said in your book the first couple prison camps they weren't fun, but they weren't as bad as it was going to get. And at least you got fed a little bit there.
Well, the only time that in transporting me was when we got in that troop train. Not troop train. When we got in that ship and staying in there 48 hours, that was the worst part, when we was in whatever sea that is, transporting us down from one camp to another. That was the roughest part of it, as I can recall right now.
Where was it, or what prison camp was it that you got to, and it was, and you said the SS would come pretty often?
Yeah, that was the first. First camp we was in. That's where the English, they were after my suit that I had on. The English prisoners, they took the wire that's in my suit to make their radios.
They made radios in the camp?
Mm-hmm. And they always had two. They had one that was that the Germans would finally get, you know.
Yeah.
And they'd have one in reserve. That's where they need the wire. That's in my gloves and shoes. Well, all I had is.
They said in your book that they brought you in and they interrogated you, but there wasn't nothing they were going to get from you, and
Oh no.
they took all your clothes at one point.
Well, that's when we got to, I think it was Frankfurt. No, that's some other town. I don't remember what town it was. That they took all our clothes and give us American uniforms. The Red Cross was there, and they were supposed to be the one that gave us our just regular GI shoes. I had a pair of shoes that it's a nice pair of good leather shoes. One of these were big, like some of them had big nail heads on the bottom, you know, where I guess it wouldn't slide on ice. But they weren't very comfortable. Seemed like the cold would just come up those big-headed nails on the bottom of the shoes. The other shoe lasted the whole war. Was just GI shoes. The size that fit me and just good shoes. I wish I'd have kept that pair of shoes.
So
they're still good.
You were moving from prison camp to prison camp, and you heard about the invasion. How did you hear about that?
When we was locked in at night in the whatever barrack we was in, and each barrack had a copy of the, I don't know where it was just, I guess it's just handwritten. I didn't notice the copy when they'd read it at night. And when on D-Day, we heard about it, that the day before they invaded. They made the invasion. And now when the barracks chief would tell us, now that we're going to have something, I'm going to read something to you tonight. It's unusual. And I don't want anybody to sigh or make any sound whatsoever that the guards can hear outside the barrack. And so we'd be careful about that, you know. And they told us about the 6th day of June, I believe it was, when the invasion took place. And then when the Germans told us about it, a week or two later, we hooped and hollered like that's the first time we heard anything.
So they were invading, so they started moving you guys, and they started moving you east. Was it northeast? And that's when things got pretty bad as a prisoner, you said in your book.
Yeah, we seemed like we was in the north part of Germany, as we went across. And what they said was 600 miles we walked from February the 6th to the end of the war.
And at that time, your clothes were getting pretty bad and there wasn't much food.
No, our clothes stayed together good, extremely good. I had 2 pairs of socks that I learned to let one hang around my belt to be dry the next night for you to put on. And that was really a big help, not to wear wet socks through the night.
Well, I read in your book that the doctor said not to wash your feet.
You're right. He said, if you can't wash your feet every night, don't start it.
And so you guys were walking a long way, and there wasn't much food. In your book, you said there wasn't much food.
Yeah. Once in a while, we'd get a parcel. Well, I don't remember, but one parcel, and that we had to divide. Seemed like that was, I'm not sure, but seemed like that was dividing one parcel with 8 men.
You said the parcel number 10 was the one that everybody wanted from the Red Cross?
Yeah. The one they didn't want was the invalid parcel.
What did that have in it?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was about that invalid parcel that wasn't as good.
So you walked 600 miles, a lot of it in the cold, had to be wet, and you talked about at that point you'd grown a beard.
Yeah, I forgot about my beard. Yeah, and I like to never got a shave. In fact, I wish I'd got a picture, but I don't remember where we were when we got the first picture, you know.
You said in your book at one point it got so bad that you had to split a loaf of bread between the 8 of you, and that was all you had to eat for quite a while.
Yeah, that was when we seemed like it was White Monday or something like that. It's up on the coast, but I can't. But I think that's the time that I asked one of the guys, had he ever tasted anything as good as that piece of bread was.
Yeah.
I said, now, don't just say no. Think about it. Think about anything that you've ever eaten, that tasted better than this bread. That's that old bread that I told Sam Moore that, do you reckon we'll ever like this bread? He says, I expect we'll wish we had more, or something like that. So
you kept walking, and at one point you got pretty sick. And he said everybody had dysentery and...
Yeah, that's the time that I just had my 2 blankets rolled up, a long roll, and pull the 2 ends together, or not together, but fairly close. You know, I think it was that belt that broke, and the boat later on. Well, it had to be. That was the only belt I ever had, other than the one that was around my waist. And I come sliding down inside that boat, you know, right down there, and where it didn't have much room down there. Propeller shafts running through there, and the fitting over it. That's what we had to sit on down the bottom of that ship.
So, what point did you know that you were going to get set free, like the war was over?
It was a night that Hitler committed suicide.
How did you find out about that?
The guards, early that evening before, well, it was after dark, they put us in a nice barn where the straw was, well, it was fit for feeding the animals. And it's just smooth hay. And the guards helped us find a place to sleep, you know. Show the light, the flashlight on the deck, and well, it's on it's dry land, but I'll call it the deck. There in the barn, all the places, you know, so you could sleep. It ordinarily you couldn't see much, and I don't remember now how we saw anything. But I just don't. I guess one of the guards would have a flashlight, you know, halfway show the area where we're going to bed down.
So when the Germans told you then that he had committed suicide?
Oh, they're scared to death. That we're liable to get killed. And I said, why do you say that? We know each other. And they say, yeah, but there's some of the guards have got American clothes on. You can't tell who's guard and who's not.
So they put on American clothes, and did they tell you that Hitler committed suicide then?
No, they just said that some of them had American clothes on. We didn't know for sure, you know, about that. Of course, they had done that. I think this rumor got out, you know, that they got on American uniforms. But it seemed like between we got up the morning after Hitler committed suicide that you could hear they're still fighting. The war wasn't over till the 8th, and this was the 1st of May. And Truman had announced, he hadn't even announced the war was over then. He didn't announce the war was over till the 8th, and this was the 1st of the month.
Were you worried about running into the Russians?
No, we weren't. I didn't think the Russians would do us any harm.
Well, the Germans were worried about it, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they was moving us around to keep us being liberated. But I don't know. I imagine there was some shenanigans going on somewhere, but I didn't run into the Russians.
So after the guards, they told you, you know, Hitler committed suicide, and you knew the war was over.
Yeah, I thought war was over then, but it wasn't over.
Yeah. That
was first, and it was 8 days before they announced. And after we was liberated, they're telling about so-and-so, you know, they give up, and they're still fighting. And the morning that I realized that we were free, you could hear guns going off, 50 caliber, or sound like about that caliber, still fighting, going on.
At one point in your book, you said shortly after they told you Hitler committed suicide, that the Germans surrendered. They wanted to surrender to you.
Yeah.
How did
Well,
that happen?
it wasn't that. They just wanted to know who to surrender to, and let's see who. I can't think of the guy's name that was our what we called our leader. You know.
You said in the book he was a British guy.
Huh?
You said in the book he was a British guy.
Well, yeah, that's who liberated us was the British,
Okay.
and they told that British accent that you use. Says a guy coming in on a motorcycle says, I don't know what to do with all these blokes. He said, yeah, I find a bloke under every bush, looks like. Talking about the enemy, And they said, well, just have the bloody blokes stack their guns in a neat position and ammunition and send them to the rear. Talking about Germans.
So then, in one day's time, it switched to where they were the prisoners now, and you were the ones that were
on in charge. Yeah. And you talk about something wild. They told us to line up 4 abreast, and I don't remember which one they said to march out orderly to the rear. They began to loot everywhere. I got a big hunk of cheese, and I don't know where it came from, but somebody found a hunk of cheese, and passing it out.
You said in your book you knew when it was close because they started getting nicer and helping you find food. So
yeah, oh yeah. I remember one of the Germans pointed to a little door into the basement and part of the barn, and I had on a sweater, and besides my other clothes, but and a belt on. I had to have that belt. My pants would fall off. I don't know what size I was then, but it was considerably less than it had been before. But he showed me an opening about that square where I could crawl down under there. There's Irish potatoes under there,
Yeah.
And how am I going to crawl down there? And well, he says, he showed my sweater, belt around, fill it up. So you couldn't go down there and fill up a sweater and get out. You had to put a few in there,
Get them out.
So
when you were liberated, you weren't in a formation. You pretty much were then trying to figure out how to get back on your own. In your book, you were talking about being on a bicycle, then a motorcycle.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't much of a organized way to get back, except just get away from the front.
Yeah.
And but when I came we'd already crossed the Elbe River, I think, twice, and that was again, we was going to have to cross it. That's when the bicycles come in. When it got to the river, I couldn't cross it, I couldn't ride a boat. I don't know that anybody could ride a motorcycle. I guess there's people that can do it on them pontoon bridges,
So you made it back, and where was the first place that you all were there and you got to be cleaned up and shaved and got some good food? When did that happen?
That was in Belgium. I can't think of the name of the place now. Brussels seemed like.
It was Brussels. Yeah, talk about Brussels.
And that was, I was trying to think of the leader. They give us I can't think of it now.
It's all right. I mean, everybody needs to read that book. It's just amazing. What was it like when you finally got home? Who'd you see first?
It was well at night. It was about 10 o'clock, I'd guess, when I got to Anniston from Atlanta. We came in on a Greyhound bus from Atlanta, and we got there about 10 o'clock at night. And I thought, well, I'm not but 13 miles from where Mavis is. That's my wife. And I'm not going to spend the night in Anniston. I don't know how I'm going to get to Munford, but I'll get there. And I hailed a cab, and he took me down there about 10 or 11 o'clock at night. That's where Mavis was staying with her parents. And well, she already knew that I was on my way home, because when that guy picked me up and carried me across the Elbe River, he got me to too far from.
You're getting presented a hat.
This was just given to me to give to you.
Oh, thank you.
Look at this.
Here's your new World War II hat.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I like that.
Show the camera the hat.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get this on here. Oh, that's great.
It looks good. I'm going to take a picture because the gentleman that donated it asked if I could get a picture of you. He's another veteran that said, bless you for your wonderful 102 years.
So Mavis knew you were coming.
Yeah, and that, when we crossed the Elbe River, that driver, and we went too far, he says, well, I've got to turn back. He says, I've got to go to my unit. And I don't know what's happened, and that's when they told me there, says, you want to send a wire to your family? I said, yeah, I sure do. That's when she found out, and that was May, second day of May.
When'd you get home?
I got home, let's see, what was, the date.
It's okay.
Okay, maybe I'll think of it.
What was that? What was that like, though?
Getting home?
Yeah, in her seeing her.
Oh gosh, they all got up naturally when I got there, but we didn't stay up long. She and I were in bed by that time.
So I want to ask you something, and I don't know, how you can sum this up. The last thing I want to ask you is, if you could sum up your experience, because there's so many details.
Yeah.
About when you were captured, shot down, and captured. Did you oftentimes think you weren't going to make it?
Oh yeah, at one time especially. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you.
You started singing that.
Yeah, and the men started gathering around. And I didn't think I was going to make it then. Yeah. That was one time I'd already written Mavis a letter. I
Yeah.
It's hell when you try and tell something you can't.
It's all right. Well, sir, I want to thank you for being on Honor Cafe Hall of Heroes. You're our hero. We got to celebrate your birthday a couple days ago, and
Boy, that was something, wasn't
it
it?
was something. And it was so awesome hearing your stories, and everybody needs to read your biography, your book, and it's called No Thought for Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you all for watching this amazing story, and thanks for tuning in to Honor Cafe Hall of Heroes.